Me, and mostly depends on the flavor. I'm not a big fan of the ones they string in hot. I love the ones with the lotus paste and metal. I don't like the egg yolk that usually so I eat first and enjoy the blood taste. In recent years, there have been a lot of very creative monkeys. Haagen-Dazs, for instance, sells ice cream monkeys, but they're really more like mooncake-shaped ice cream. I enjoy this, but they don't really give me that holiday feeling. However, when it comes around, I'm excited to eat some monkeys. Then, after eating them for days and days following the festival, often for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I now want to see them again. But next fall, I'm always ready for some more. Happy Middle of Life Festival. Enjoy the monkeys. Enjoy the moon. Morning pages. Recently, I've been doing something for morning pages. What are morning pages, you might ask? They are practice recommended by the writer Julie Ackerman and her book The Artist's Way. Pages to morning pages on her website. Morning pages are 3 pages of longhand, stream of consciousness writing, done first thing in the morning. There is no wrong way to do morning pages. They are not highlights. They are not even writing. They are about anything and everything to cross your mind, and they are for your eyes only. Morning pages provoke, clarify, comfort, cajole, prioritize, and synchronize the day time. Do not overthink morning pages. Just put 3 pages of anything on the page, and then do 3 more pages tomorrow. I found this practice to be effective with clear my mind and start my day. I'm not running a novel, but I still found it helpful the spring time writing down some of the mirror thoughts that are bouncing around my head. I'm not sure morning pages is something that we can continue for the rest of my life, but I found them valuable over the past few months. I plan to continue doing that. Jeff Bezos is all about the long term. We believe that a fundamental measure of our success will be the shareholder value we create for the long term. This value will be relative with our ability to extend and solidify our current market leadership position. The stronger market leadership, the more powerful our economic model. Market leadership can translate directly high revenue, high profitability, greater capital velocity, and corresponding with stronger returns on invested capital. Our decisions have consistently reflected this focus. We first measure ourselves in terms of metrics most indicative of market leadership, customer revenue growth, the degree to which our customers continue to purchase from us on a repeat basis, and strengthen our brand. We have invested and will continue to invest aggressively to expand and leverage our company brand and infrastructure as we move to establish an enduring franchise. Because of our emphasis on the long term, we may make the decisions of the future differently than some companies. Accordingly, we want to share with you our fundamental management and decision-making approach. So, as shareholders, making sure that is consistent with your investment philosophy. We will continue to focus relentlessly on customers. We will continue to make investment decisions in light of long-term marketing leadership considerations, rather than short-term profitability considerations or short-term Wall Street reactions. We will continue to measure our programs and the effectiveness of investments analytically, to jettison those and not provide acceptable we need to learn for both our successes and our failures. We will make bold rather than timid investment decisions. There is sufficient probability of gaining market leadership advantage. Some of these investments will pay off, others will not, and we have learned another valuable lesson in either case. We are so bored about this right investment philosophy, but with us, we will be remiss if we won't clear in the approach we've taken and will continue to take. A new AI language model generates poetry and prose. GPT-3 can be eerily human-like, for better and for worse. The SEC said, Musk, your tweets are blight. They really could pause your job if you don't stop or delete tweeting at night. Then Musk cried, why? The tweets are raw to me. I don't use all caps, and I'm sure that my tweets are clean. But tweets can move markets, and that's where I saw. You may be a genius and a billionaire, but that doesn't give you the right to be a boss. The preceding line describing Tesla's SpaceX founder Elon Musk running into the district and is changing an American financial regulator. An opera some swine 21st century doctor suits. This point written by computer running a piece of software called Generative Pre-trained Transformer 3. GPT-3, as it is more commonly known, was developed by OpenAI, an artificial intelligence AI laboratory based in San Francisco, and Mr. Musk helped found. It represents the latest advance of one of the most studied areas of AI. Give computer the ability to generate sophisticated human-like text. The software builds the idea of a language model. This aims to represent language statistics, mapping the probability which words follow other words. For instance, how often red rose. The same sort of analysis can be performed, or even entire paragraphs. Such given prompt, red roses, in this survey plus say, and we'll dig through its set to relationships to come up with some text that matches the description. Consensus as a country, one for our many, by Henry H. Walker. Quakers strive for consensus to make decisions that all are comfortable with, and that's way harder than voting. Just over half of this step in the right direction, but then just under half can feel their ideas and self are denied. In the imagined states, a few tens of thousands of votes take the electoral college in electing Donald Trump. The popular vote more substantially favor Hillary Clinton, and the country is fractured. If current polls are to be believed, about 40% of the electorate still want Trump to be president, despite how disastrous he's been in this struggle to transcend the tribal and build a blessed community out of violence. It is important to denounce the emperor with no clothes even more years to spur us and discipline hope even more. And somehow we need to find a way to welcome those who follow his back into a union composed to many, to somehow be better than Reconstruction Day. For his supporters to know there are a value part of a larger whole, despite the rolling hate that drives to fear. Ask Geeky Brain by Steve Catalina. Here's a really simple idea that can be useful for self-motivation. Sometimes our friends are too flabby, giving us the last lever to drop the ball onto light off. In such cases, it may be useful to adopt a harsher frame and live temporarily to demand more from ourselves. Here are some of these asking frames to consider. Worrying equals down. Hating equals dishonorable. Sleeping past 5 a.m. equals losers. Not asking for the day equals finalists. Clinging to a partial match equals creepy. Tolerating Trump supporters equals suffering fools. I think suffering best when linked close to actions, behaviors, not more complex results like income. They can be helpful when facing quick do or don't decisions like get out or sleeping light. Imagine your alarm going off in the morning and you're tempted sleeping. Then the inner voice kicks and explains, sleeping these losers, get at them now. Or suppose you catch yourself worrying about something you can't control, and you remind yourself worrying is a stupid waste of energy. You beat yourself up here. Room for using such frames without risking damage to your self-esteem. I know but for something it helps. It's a tool. Use it if you like it. Try it if you think it has promise. The Base Camp Guide to Internal Communication. The how, where, why, and when you communicate. Long-form sickness, real-time chat, in-person, video, verbal, written, via email, in Basecamp. How do we keep everyone in the loop without tagging everyone as business? It's all in here. And the general philosophy. Below, you'll find a collection of general principles we try to Basecamp when you communicate with the public. They are requirements, but they serve to create boundaries and share practices to job on. We do the one thing that affects everything else we do. Communicate. 1. You cannot not communicate. Not discussing elephant in the room. It's communicating. Few things are important to study, practice, and perfect as clear communication. 2. Real-time sometimes, asynchronous most of the time. 3. Internal communication based on long-form writing rather than verbal traditional meetings, speaking, chatting. These meetings, video conferences, calls, opportunities be interrupted. 4. Give meaningful discussions on meaningful mountain non-forward. Rushing to judgment or immediate responses only serves to increase the odds of poor decision making. 5. Meetings are the last resort, not the first option. 6. Writing solidifies, chat dissolves. Substantial decisions start and end with an exchange of complete thoughts, not one-lined time josses. If it's critical or fundamental, write it up, don't chat it down.
tourism, which grew faster than the global domestic years, has been pandemic. 10% of the planning worldwide. The sector supports Chad 121 million jobs, with losses projected a minimum of $3.4 trillion, according to the World Traveling Tours Council. But in the law, some in the tourism industry are planning for a post-vaccine return to travel that's better than it was before March 2020, greener, smarter, and less crowded. It's sustainable tourism which aims to counterbalance the social and environmental impacts associated with travel with the aspirational outer limit of eco-tourism before the pandemic. The new frontier is regenerative travel, or leaving a place better than you found it. Sustainable tourism is not a low bar. The genre does not measure the clothes. The Journal Day and Associate Professor focused on sustainable tourism for Purdue University. Regenerative tourism said, let's make it better for future generations. Defining regeneration. Regenerative travel has a regenerative development and design. Made the U.S. Green Building Council's leadership and energy and environmental design of LEED standard. The concept has application across many fields, including regenerative agriculture, which aims to restore soil and sequester carbon. Generally, sustainability as practiced today is about slowing down the degradation. Its theories on architect and principle of regenerative and design from based on Massachusetts and Mexico that have been practicing regenerative design, including tourist projects, since 1995. He described efforts like fuel efficiency and reduced energy use and a slower rate of eye. Regeneration is about restoring and then regenerating the capability to live and in relationships in an ongoing way. Work life by Liu Babata. When it comes to work, I found that most of us fall in one of two camps. One, we work way too hard, constantly training, never feeling like we got enough done. Or two, we put off work, go into distractions, feeling guilty about how little we're getting done. Either can result in long working hours and drains us. It leaves us feeling depleted, not alive. There's no simple solution to this, of course, but I like to propose something here to both camps. Work less, do fewer things, be more fully earning those favorite things, recognize your victories, rest more, play more, connect more. Let's look at this from perspective in each camp. And please note, I noted that not everyone falls in this camp, and not everyone can change their number of hours they work. Take from this course what might be useful for you, part of the rest. Is the brain a useful model for artificial intelligence? Thinking machines think just like us, but only up to a point. By Kelly Clancy. In the summer of 2009, this really neuroscientist Carol Marker strolled onto the TED stage and Oxford, England, and made a modest proposal. Within a decade, he said, he and his colleagues will build a complete simulation of the human brain inside a supercomputer. That already spent years mapping the cells and your cortex, the cortex of thought and perception. It's a bit like going and cataloging a piece of the rainforest. I can make plan. How many trees it has? What shapes the trees?
Now, his team would create a virtual ring faster than silicon, from which they hope artificial intelligence would organically emerge. If following well, perhaps the simulated ring will give a follow-up head-top, even by hologram. Markham's idea reminded us of the nature of biological intelligence by mimicking forms, with root in the long tradition, dating back to the word of the Spanish anonymous Noble Santiago Ramon Nicol. In the late 19th century, Nicol took microscope study of brain, which compared to a fast so dense that the trunks, branches, and leaves touch everywhere. By sketching thousands of neurons and detail, Nicol was able to infer an astonishing amount of how they work. He saw the prohibited one-way input-output devices. They received electrochemical messages and trivial structures called dendrite and passed them along excellent tubes, the called axons, much like the junctions of electric conductors. Cohorts of looking at neurons became the lens to which scientists study brain function. It also inspired major technological advances. There are common soft rings by Sarah East. There were common soft rings and the smell of ground, and the swallows circulate with their shimmering sound, and the frogs and pools singing at night, and the round dung trees in tremulous white. Robins were where the feathery fire, whistling the rings on the low fence wall, and no one knows over the wall, not one, or care less when they stung. Not one would mind, and the bird no tree, if mankind perish utterly, and the spring herself, when she walks down, will scarcely know that we are gone. Sleep in Your Favor by Derek Service. The old thing is all who you know used to feel so defeated. I want to be a famous musician, but they are not famous people. I didn't grow up in Hollywood. Now my friends are successful, with a secret insider's role. So when I heard It's All Who You Know, it felt like the rest of that word, and you don't know anymore, so forget it. One day in college, the guest teacher was a public absurdity at mine. On his way to class, I overheard himself hungry. He comes straight out for lunch. So when the teacher told me what the 2-hour class is wrong, because everyone was still getting seated, I quickly ran to the hall, called the local pizza shop, and pizza to be served to our classroom. After the round, he laughed and said, "Good move, I owe you one." He gave me his card after class and suggested keeping in touch. For the next 2 years, he took my calls and gave me all kinds of advice about the music business. When I graduated college, he got me a great job at Warner Ships and Music Publishing in New York City. He heard they were hiring. He called them their to work done, and that was that. I started work quick. A year later, I realized It's All Who You Know doesn't have to be a present. I just never considered they can work my favor. Then I realized the profound conclusion. Everything seems to be present, can be flipped to work in my favor. Every deal that's bad for someone is good for someone else. So instead of mourning about the bad side, you can take the good side. If you think corporate radio will keep your music from being heard, start a radio station. Look at the history of FM.com, for example. If you think facts are very advantage, you can start at that. Look at Simple.com, for example. 1997, I saw distribution from musicians so I started CD with it. Now, distribution doesn't suck anymore. If you live in a democracy that don't like the law, you can even change the law. You can place anything in your favor. It's easier than ever for you to break the broken system and never feel helpless again.